Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 86.
Congratulations, you showed up. Give yourself a high five in celebration of your success. Welcome to the Cashflow Diary, where new and experienced investors come to take confident action towards their goals. Your host is a family man, a real estate entrepreneur, investor, coach, and instructor. As a master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's Cashflow 101 game, he's inspired many to begin their journey into creating cash flow for themselves and their family. And now, here he is to offer you the tools required to earn the income desired. Your cash flow coach, Jay Massey.
All right, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. This is Jay, your host, and I am excited to be here today. I'm excited because, as many of you know, I was born into a military family, so freedom is something that's huge in my world. It's what we fight for. It's the very reason my parents got up, is that they fought for the freedoms that we have the ability to go out there, build businesses, make a difference, and improve lives of all of our customers and in everyone that we come in contact with. Well, today's guest is all about improving the lives of some very special people to my heart, and I definitely want to make sure that you get a chance to understand his vision, his mission, and if you are so inclined, I challenge you to participate, to actually make a difference. Remember, we're going to make a difference, not just make a dollar. And what I'm excited about is to introduce him and his mission to you, because you're going to hear so many things. It's going to sound like, is Jay talking to himself? I don't think so, but I think you're going to hear it for sure. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. Glad that you're here. You want to go over to learninvestingnow.com. Learninvestingnow.com. Be able to pick up a course on some of the basics of learning how to get investing started for you, so that you have a groundwork from which to begin, because we all start somewhere, and let us help you start at absolutely no cost. Now, today's guest is beyond qualified in so many ways, and I'm just excited, and I just kind of want to jump straight into it, because what we're going to be talking about today are those individuals who, have laid down their lives and sacrificed so that you and I have the ability to do something as simple as have a podcast, so that we can go out there and distribute information and help other people. These are the things, these are the individuals that create the opportunity that, unfortunately, some of us, and yes, I'm talking to you, take for granted. And now we have a shot at being able to hear what it takes to help them and further the mission, because I am just excited. And let me give you a little bit of backstory. My wife saw this particular individual on the television and said, "Hey, you need to get him." And I was like, okay, but husbands, things go better if you listen to your wife, and that's exactly what we did here. And what I want you to do is I want you to pay undivided attention. I'm sure you're washing dishes, chasing the dog, or whatever you're doing right now. I just want you to give this man all of your attention as we talk about serving our veterans, as he talks about his organization, New Directions for Veterans, and making sure that you understand what it takes to make these visions and missions happen, and how you can participate. Please welcome Mr. Gregory Scott. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing wonderful, awesome. I'm excited to be here. I think I'm more excited about your wife, making a suggestion for us to get connected. But I'm excited to be a part of this today.
Yes, I definitely appreciate it. And I'm just curious, one of the things that I often say to people is I think that today's entrepreneurs are like yesterday's superheroes. And all superheroes, Batman, Superman, Robin, they all have a backstory. They all have an origin story. So for those who may not be familiar with, New Directions or yourself, could you give us a little bit of understanding? What's your origin story?
Awesome. Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself, about why I'm passionate about the work that New Directions for Veterans does. And it's similar to yours, where I serve as president and CEO of this organization that's serving veterans, although I'm not a veteran myself. My dad served in the Korean War. And I grew up, I was born and raised in New Jersey, Patterson, New Jersey. And I've been out here for about 14 years. My dad served in the Korean War. And I just remember growing up and my dad often talking about suicide, being depressed, He showed me where he got injured, when he was in the service. And at the time, we knew nothing about what we now know is post-traumatic stress disorder, and these suicide tendencies that many of our veterans are dealing with today. And so, although my dad died in 2007 from cancer, I often think back and say the quality of his life could have been better if we as a community have known and got him the help that he needed. The quality of his life would have been a whole lot better. So I think for me, a lot of my passion comes from that. But in terms of talking about new directions for veterans, the organization, we've been around since 1992. We're located in the West LA area of Los Angeles. We're actually on the West LA campus of the Veterans Administration, where we have 2 buildings here on campus, and we have 2 buildings in the community that serves women veterans as well. But our history was really born out of coming out of the Vietnam era, where our founders saw that there was a major need of those veterans who served in Vietnam who find themselves homeless, addicted to drugs, dealing with mental health issues, but no help. And LA, Los Angeles, has become the epicenter of homeless veterans anywhere in the country. So our history is born out of wanting to help those Vietnam era veterans. So we're providing housing, transitional housing. We also provide affordable housing. We begin to build affordable housing. We do workforce development, helping veterans get jobs, substance abuse counseling, mental health services. We like a one-stop shop. We do job training, everything. But over the last 2 years, we've begun to do more affordable housing and becoming a developer and providing permanent housing for veterans.
And that's the funny thing. That's exactly what my wife saw, and she got my attention. It was one of those times where she, there are many times when we're using our DVR and we skip forward. She actually hit pause on this news, and I'm like, "You want me to watch the news? What? What could it possibly be?" And she hits pause, and she's like, "You got to watch this." And I'm watching. And I'm just like, "Oh my goodness!" Because if I'm not mistaken, you call it permanent supportive housing, right?
Permanent supportive housing.
Yeah, I love that title. I was like, kind of wish I thought of that one, but that one's good, and that's been a lot of why we do what we do in some of the places that we have assets is we always say we want to provide clean, safe, affordable housing to people that need it when it matters most, and we've got many different definitions and ways of executing that, but it's the very same thing that you're doing right here in LA. So tell us a little bit more about how the organization works in that housing area.
Wow, it's a great question. Here's what we know. We serve probably over 1,000 veterans and their families every single year, and when you look at, like I said earlier, there's over 6,000 homeless veterans here in Los Angeles, and one veteran homeless is one veteran too many. So when we begin to look at our vision and things that we're looking at towards the future, we knew that affordable housing was having affordable housing was a major roadblock for veterans being able to get off the street, really get their lives together, and become more sustainable. And it probably goes right along with the thing that you're saying. We want to provide clean, safe, affordable housing when it matters most. And for them, it matters most because they've been homeless.
Right.
And some of them have been homeless for a decade or more, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years. And so our premise is, we want to be able to provide affordable housing, but we also know that just because they're in a home and they have a key, does not mean that their mental health issues have gone away.
Right.
They're in recovery, those issues didn't go away. So one of the things that we do, and we do it pretty well, is we provide the services that are attached to it to make sure those veterans stay housed. So we continue to provide case management services. If they need to get to the doctor, if they still need to go to recovery classes and recovery groups, we provide all of that. We have a clinical staff that's providing mental health counseling. So we continue to provide those services even though they're in a permanent house. Now, the thing that's powerful, and it's probably the same thing with you, is for me, when we opened up our first housing project back in September.
Nice.
After fighting for it for 10 years.
Right.
It's 147 studio apartments, and we converted 2 old hospitals out in North Hills to 147 studio apartments for veterans. And I'm telling you, it was and these 2 hospitals laid vacant for over a decade. So it was a mess. If you look at it now, I can live there and be very proud of it. But the most powerful thing is for a veteran who's been homeless, now they have their own key to their own place and be able to open that door and walk into their own place and say, "This is mine." That's very powerful for what we do.
And I hope everyone's listening right now. You can hear it's not just about the money, and it's about making a difference. And we have an opportunity. Real estate is a way that we can all make a difference. Now, I'm assuming there's a concept that I teach in some of the courses and classes and times that I'm speaking of called investor identity. And I talk about the investor taking the time to understand the customer so much so that they customize their real estate towards the customer's needs. So in this case, let's call the veteran the customer. And I'm kind of curious, what kind of customizations other than the additional services, because I heard that already, what are some of the customizations that you make to these buildings to be able to serve the needs?
Well, some of the veterans are dealing with some type of physical disability. So we want to make sure that we are all of our buildings are ADA. So those are things that we really want to make sure that happens, so they're able to get in and out of the bathtub,
Right.
their apartment. Those things are important. Here's what I've learned too: color is really important.
Oh.
The color of the walls and the color of the apartments are really important because certain colors create a certain behavior or create a certain attitude. So colors like blue or these elaborate colors really make a difference in terms of the veteran's attitude. Some of our veterans have are dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, depression. There are 22 veterans who kill themselves every single day here in the country. So yes, I'm gonna say it again because your eyes got really
Wow.
20, it's 22 a day. 22 veterans commit suicide every single day.
Wow.
So we know that those issues come from they're attributed to their experience in war. So color and making sure it's ADA compliant, creating a community within each one of our buildings are all things that are really important to customize the service that we provide.
Now, there's two things I want to stick on right there because you mentioned they were studio apartments. So it's 147 studio apartments. They're not one bedrooms. They're not two bedrooms. I find that interesting. Was that part of the plan? Is two bedrooms don't work, one bedrooms don't work, studios do?
Each one of our prizes are different. This particular one was for individuals, male and female individuals. And then we just opened up another project in El Monte. We have another one coming up in Ball Heights. Next year we're doing one in Glendale that's going to be 1 and 2 bedroom apartments because those apartments are going to be for families.
Okay.
So so we started out just providing kind of the studio model. But we have other projects in the pipeline that are going to be more geared towards family. There'll be 1 or 2 bedroom apartments.
Got it. And then on the community aspect, one of the things that we've done and that I like to try to do is when I'm looking at an apartment building, typically the ones that we get, say, above 12 units but less than 100 units in size, I'm looking for a U-shaped building so that there's a courtyard or to help create that community feel. Is that something similar? Well, as you can tell, he and I have a lot in common. We like the very similar things in terms of the types of properties, types of people we wish to serve. And you can see how clearly, once you know whom you're going to serve, how you can make so many other decisions about your real estate, about your business, and about what it is that's actually going to happen. So here's my next question to you. Would you like to learn more from my experience? Well, anyway, here's what I mean by that. This Tuesday's episode online, the web show Q&A with Jay. If you don't know where that is, you can find it at CashFlowDiary.tv. CashFlowDiary.tv. Here's what we're going to do for you, and for me, and kind of for fun to some degree, is we're going to do a special episode whereby I'm just going to recount many of the things that I did wrong, and we're calling it my top 7 mistakes. And I promise you, I'm going to prove to you that you don't have to start smart when it comes down to it. And I'm going to share with you, again, my top 7 mistakes. And you get to learn from the lessons that have cost. I mean, when I add up all the, lost opportunity costs and just the lost money, and you put all that together, we're talking multiple seven figures at this point. And you'll be able to learn from those things so that you don't make those same errors. And if you find that valuable, you probably want to be over at cashflowdiary.tv, and we'll be there. So it's cashflowdiary.tv Tuesdays. And then we air most Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Anyway, let's get you back so that you can understand more about how you can help and serve, especially those who have served us greatly.
Absolutely. The one that we did out in Sao Paulo, the 147. We have a beautiful courtyard. Home Depot came in, and there's flowers out there. There's park benches out there. It's such a peaceful environment. We have community rooms that are within the building itself.
Nice.
That veterans who live in the building can come and they can play cards or a domino night or movie night, whatever it is that they want to do, or have different groups. But the courtyard is certainly a added feature that they love. And some of our other projects, when we're going to have kids there, we have these community rooms for kids, so that kids have a place to do their homework, and they're also able to interact. So we do look at each project and say, for this particular group, how do we really customize it so that it's a feeling of home, but also that has all the amenities that they need.
Exactly. That's exactly what I get excited about, because oftentimes I know for us as real estate investors, we just go, okay, just put up any old thing and someone will live there, but that doesn't necessarily fit the need in this particular case. So here's an interesting question that I want to ask. How do you see, like, what role could a real estate investor play right now to help you or help the cause or help the organization?
Great question. And I get calls a lot, often from individuals or from real estate investors who want to get involved in some way. And I think one of the ways is if you guys have units available. Mm-hmm. If there are units available, we want to be able to have a discussion about how we're able to get some of our veterans into those units. And they're able to get some type of subsidy as well. So we talk through all that process. But I think one of the biggest ways is if there are units available, because we're always looking for good units, nice communities, nice buildings. All those things are really important for us to be able to house our veterans.
I just love this mission because it's exactly what it is. And oftentimes when I'm at a networking group and then someone's complaining about a vacancy, I'm like, have you considered this idea of housing, someone who needs it like a veteran? And for some reason that is never the first option or answer. But I'm just grateful that you guys are out there doing these things, and I want to do whatever I can to help make that happen more and more. What would you say, though, it has been the number one challenge that your organization faces as you guys move forward with your mission?
On the housing front, I think it's just that. It's being able to find the right development partners as we're developing new housing. So it's about finding the right development partners, projects that really make sense for us. It makes sense for them, because it is about the mission first, but there's still business.
Right.
So you still got to work out the deal. It's a benefit for both people. So even though we focus on the mission, at the end of the day, we're still running a business, and we got to make sure that it's in a safe environment for our veterans. It just makes sense for us to provide the services that we're providing. Makes sense for the development partner. I think all those things, as we are looking for opportunities to really develop that part of our business, are really important.
So with that being the case, what would you say would be the first thing that you're looking for inside of a community? Like, when you're driving down the street and you go, oh, that would be good for my veterans. What is it that catches your eye?
Awesome. It's a great question. I think it's obviously a safe community, but also access to services. So it's access to the bus stop. It's access to the train stop. Because some of our veterans obviously, don't have a vehicle, but have a job. So they got to have access to those transportation entities so they can be able to get back and forth to work, take care of their business as well. So we certainly look at that. We also look at access to some of the services that they may need. So if it's shopping, is there a grocery store around? Is there a shopping mall around? So the things that they need to do to take care of them and their families. So look, as you probably already know, this has been around for years and years and years. When you're looking at, investing in any type of real estate, location, location, location. So that cliche has been around for years, and we do the same thing. We're looking at location, 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 and so we're looking at all those amenities to make sure it makes sense for our veterans.
Yeah, but yes, we're looking at location, but we're also not saying, hey, we want our veterans on the beachfront in Malibu.
No, we're not saying that.
Those are two different things.
It has to be affordable.
Right.
I think the best communities that really work for us are those communities that we like to call mixed use. So, and you're going to have your market rates, but you're also going to have a certain number of those apartments that may be in that building or in that community that may be below market rates. And so I think when you have that type of mixture within the community, I think those are things that probably make the most sense for us when we're looking at particular communities.
Got it. So what on earth would possess you to take up this mission? Because this isn't exactly something that, there's no one really carrying the banner saying, hey, pouring a spotlight on. You're to some degree, I view this as you got something of an uphill climb. I know I do every time I'm talking to investors. I'm like, you want a house? Who? I'm like, well, this is who I want. This is who we're going to go serve. And, many people do resonate with the message, and this is true. So I feel like we're probably fighting, or walking on the same hill, or at least opposite sides of the same hill, trying to get to the same point. I'm just kind of curious, what would possess you to say, yeah, I want to do this?
I think, when you look, a couple of things. One, you got to look at the need that's out there. I mentioned earlier, we have the epicenter for veterans who through circumstance find themselves homeless.
Right.
So that's a problem. But I also understand it because LA has nice weather. There's a lot of people who transition here, and so that's going to happen. But I think looking at what the need is, in fact, we have a problem. Two, we're just completing 2 wars, both in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so when you look at those veterans who are coming back, we can't repeat what we did when the Vietnam War ended, and those veterans came back. And they came back to a country that wasn't prepared for them. We can't make that same mistake. So, 30 years from now, I live in Orange County too. 30 years from now, when we're sitting at Huntington Beach,
yes,
talking about our lives, drinking whatever we're drinking, lemonade,
yes,
whatever it is. I don't want to have a discussion with you, Jay, and say, man, we still got homeless veterans who served in Iraq.
Right.
Because today I'm still talking about veterans who served in Vietnam who are still homeless. It's been 40 years.
Right.
So 30 years from now, we can't be having that same discussion. So we got to find a way to fix that problem. Housing is certainly a major component to help us be able to do that. So I think that's kind of the mission. I think the other thing too is from the White House to my house, at everybody's kitchen table, we all talking about veterans who are returning back and what we really need to do to help them. And I think that's really important that this presidency and this administration is also highlighting it and making it a priority. Correct.
100% agreed. So when it comes down to it, though, when you say housing, the major things that it sounds like you're looking for, if I've got a single family house, you're like, okay, great, but you would prefer me to have like 30, 40, 50, 100 units. That's not always easy to find, but yeah. Are you trying to look for 100 units that are all by itself to create a community, or are you trying to mix them in? How does that work?
That's a great question. We have 2 different models. One is the model I'll talk with you about. We had one project, 147 units. Another project got 40 units. We got another coming up that has 44 units. And so that's one model that we certainly look at, because we got all the veterans right there. And as we provide the services, we're able to provide it all in that one building. We have something else called a scattered site model. And what we mean by scattered sites is that we may have veterans who may be in your, two-story housing project, or, if you got 30 units, 5 of those units may be for veterans. Mm-hmm. We got 2 more over here. We got 10 on that side of town. So we call that scattered sites. So when we're talking with people like you, and people who are in your circle who may have available units, may not be all veterans in that one building, but they may have sites all over town that we may be able to plug our veterans into. And then all we do is take what we do in our buildings, we take it down the road, have staff who actually go and provide services at all those different buildings.
Got it. I like it. I like both of those models. And what's really funny is that historically, I've tend to purchase 100% vacant buildings and just customize them to exactly whatever has been needed. So there's so much similarity and overlap here that I would, like I said, when my wife saw you on TV, I was like, oh wow, that makes sense. We're like the same person almost. I've got an interesting question because I like to ask this of people who have military families, and especially on a day like today. What would you say freedom means to you?
Wow. I mean, that's a really interesting question. And I think in my space, in terms of the work that I do, I know that freedom, while I'm sleeping and, taking my family to the beach or the things, somebody somewhere is up all night fighting for me to be able to do that.
Right.
And I think in terms of freedom, freedom is not free. So somebody somewhere made some type of sacrifice for us to have the liberties that we have. And it can be, it's the same thing for my children. For my children to be able to my children have a way better life than I did coming up. but for them to be able to have what they have and do the things that they're able to do, they have no idea the work that I put in for them to have that freedom. It's the same thing for when we look at veterans. It's the ultimate sacrifice for them to put their lives on the line for us to have the type of independence and freedom that we have. And it literally costs many of them their lives for us to be able to do that. So for me, one, I don't take freedom for granted. But it also allows us to do the things that we want to do. So when you look at the entrepreneurs who are out there, the business owners who are out there, the entertainers who are out there, the musicians who are out there, who are all able to really live out their dream without any, we all have some roadblocks, but they have the opportunity to really live out their dream.
Right.
To be an entrepreneur, to be an investor, to do whatever it is that we do. We do that because of the freedom that we have. The opportunity to do whatever you want to do when you want to do it.
Right.
That's freedom.
And some would say that's the definition of being an I can. That means you have a shot at being able to do exactly what it is you want to do, regardless of your size, height, weight, color, creed. Nothing really matters except your ability to go out there and make it happen. Absolutely. And we're talking today about serving the people who enable us to make that happen, who have come before us or who are out there right now, doing the things that it takes, doing what is required, sacrificing in ways that most of us will never even have to or imagine. Because having been a military kid, I remember, getting those calls or seeing my dad have to leave last minute, and you're like, where is he going? And you're not going to hear from him. And then he comes back and you're like, oh, he's back now. And then the random, hey, it's time to move countries. Oh, great. All of that stuff that ain't free. And I think that's a lot of what you're referring to when it comes to what it takes, for us to enjoy the grand experiment, some call it, known as the United States, and the freedoms that we have. So I definitely appreciate everything that you're doing. I'm curious, what would you say you're the most excited about that you guys got going on right now?
I think I'm most excited about a lot of things that we've been talking about. A lot of our history in terms of our organization, we've always provided really good services to veterans, from helping them get a job to substance abuse counseling, blah blah blah. We've always been really one of the leaders in the country in terms of being able to provide that, and seen as a leader throughout the country as providing veteran services. But as we expand our vision and look to where we want to go, housing is a big component of that. And I see housing as not just as the bricks and mortar. Housing is a service.
Yeah.
Because guess what? You can't get a job if you don't have a house. You can't, get connected to your family if you have no house. You can't do any of the things that we oftentimes we take for granted. But without a house, and a home, not just a house, but having a home,
right,
community, those are the foundational things that allow us to do the things that we do on a daily basis. So we see housing as a tremendous service because it's something that most of us take for granted. I mean, having a key, you have to be there to witness it. When you see a 50-year-old veteran who opens the door in his own house for the first time in 10 years and see him break down and cry.
Right.
Because that entity that we all take for granted and that you provide other families,
Right.
most of us take for granted, was such a big thing for that 50-year-old veteran.
Well, most of the, for those of you listening, many of you know that I've personally had, times where I've lived in my car and that we were squatting in bank-owned property. So I can relate a little bit to exactly what you're saying, because I can remember, going into trash cans trying to get clothing because I didn't have it. And these are the things that get me excited for the opportunity today. And that's part of what these men and women have fought for. They fought for the opportunity where I could be in a situation where I can go from taking clothes out of a trash can to providing them housing. That's completely different. It's a different perspective, and it's a different way of looking at business and life, and just, being of service. And we can use our, gifts and talents in those ways to be able to make those things happen. And that's this. I can only imagine. See, the thing is I couldn't do what you do because I would spend most of my day crying. That's the challenge, is that because I've tried to go to orphanages and I got the same response. I just cry all day, and this sounds like that it would be the same thing, is that I would just cry all day and I'd never be productive.
Yeah. I've certainly had those moments, and you have an incredible story.
Thank you.
And you certainly can relate to a lot of things that these veterans are going through. So I have a deep appreciation for your story.
Thank you. I just didn't, at the end of the day, we were all handed a deck of cards, and I played a hand, and that was the hand I was dealt, and we're still playing, and now we're just trying to bring that message to let entrepreneurs know that we can make a difference. We don't have to just make dollars, and we can find organizations like yours to partner with in various different ways. So, which brings up a good question. If someone wanted more information about your mission and vision, now, if I'm not mistaken, you guys just work in the LA area?
Well, yeah, we're primarily in the LA area, but we have our strategic plan is taking us to begin to extend regionally, and also nationally as well. But if people want to know more about our organization and what is it that we're doing a lot of work with women and families as well. But if people want to know more about what we're doing, they can go to www.ndvets.org. That's our website, and get connected.
Excellent. And we were talking earlier, and you were mentioning that there was a rather large event coming up in the area, and I would love for you to take a moment or two, tell us a little bit about the event, why the event is necessary, what it helps you guys to do, and how we might be able to participate in some way.
Awesome. That's a great question. Thank you for that. There's two major events that we do every year. One we just did on Memorial Day. And every Memorial Day, every year, we do something called Walk for Warriors. And it's a 5K event that we do right here on the VA campus in West LA. So even though it's a year away from now, I want to let people know about that event that's happens every Memorial Day. They're still gone by 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. They can still have their cookouts with their family on their day off. But it's a great event. We have almost 1,000 people who come to that event. We partner with the West LA Chamber. Kids are there, families are there, people are walking, and it's a tremendous day, tremendous event. So that's called Walk for Warriors. That happens every year on Memorial Day. The second event that we do, and it's coming up this year, October the 5th, Sunday evening, it's our annual dinner gala. And, we usually have between 300 and 500 people at that event. It's at the Beverly Hilton. Again, if they go to our website, www.ndvets.org, it will certainly give them more insight in terms of what we do, in terms of our mission, and then meet a lot of veterans that we also serve. So that event is coming up October 5th, and we love anyone who's interested to certainly be a part of that.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now, and as we get close to closing, let me ask you this. If you had an opportunity to speak to a whole bunch of entrepreneurs, either those just getting started or those who are established in their business and they're looking to go out there and either create a business that serves vets or use their real estate to serve vets, what advice would you give them and making sure that they could reach the most amount of success about serving this customer?
And I think that the latter part of your question, I think, is really important in terms of serving this particular customer. Mm-hmm. And the reason why that's important, because veterans are different, and in terms of what I've learned, and their values are different. They have a tremendous work ethic. They have tremendous leadership. Their needs are also different as well. They have this sense of community, which is why them being in the right community is really important, because they're used to taking care of one another. But they also used to having someone around them who understands what they've gone through. So I think the more entrepreneurs can really understand the customer and not look at it as just a dollar figure, because sometimes as entrepreneurs, because I'm one of myself, as entrepreneurs, we see everybody as a customer, right?
Right.
And we just go after everybody, after everybody, but we don't market strategically. So when we're looking at your business plan, as whatever your business is, you want to make sure that you have targeted marketing. And when you're targeting veterans, you want to make sure you really understand what the needs of those customers are.
Awesome. Well, I definitely, like as I said, I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate the mission. I appreciate the vision. For those of you, if you haven't already, go over to ND, that's N as in Nancy, D as in David, V as in Victor, E, T as in Tom, S as in Sam.org. Find out more about the gala that's coming up. Find out more about Walk for Warriors. Find out more about what Mr. Gregory Scott and what they're doing. And don't just find out. Tell somebody and get involved yourself. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us as we close?
Well, I think we covered a lot of ground. I think it's when I'm talking to people, I want people to really understand supporting veterans is not just, hey, a pat on the back and say thank you for your service. A lot of our veterans need real service, and they need real support, and they need people like us who are really committed to really helping them. So I encourage everybody to get involved. And there's different ways you get involved. It may not just be volunteering our organization. It may be through your business, being an entrepreneur. Make sure you're targeting them because they need the service themselves. It also may be we have a lot of veterans who want to become entrepreneurs. Who can you mentor? What veteran can you mentor? So they also become entrepreneurs because they have a lot of skills, a lot of ideas as well. So I'll leave you with that.
Awesome. Thank you for your time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. If something you heard today moved you in any way, your goal now is to actually take one measurable step towards that particular goal. Do not leave the scene of a decision without taking measurable action towards that goal, and that is today. I know you're on an iPhone, you're on an iPad, you're looking on a mobile device. Flip over, go to the website, ndvets.org, and begin to make your days count in the life of someone else. I definitely have had an excellent time today, and I hope that this particular episode, even given today, makes a difference in your life. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to talking to all you guys again soon. Until next time.
Thank you for investing your time with Jay Massey and the Cash Flow Diary. When you have a moment, please visit iTunes and leave a positive comment about the show. And go now to our website, CashFlowDiary.com, to take advantage of our free business building course, Cash Flow Foundation. Gain the knowledge, understanding, and skill that will teach you how to never need a job again. Until next time.